There you go.
Hi, my name is Julie. Emily asked me to do a little mindfulness and meditation for the March Madness at Move Studios. I believe we did something similar last year, so maybe you tuned in and saw some videos. Hopefully you are still practicing in some way or not, and that's okay too. So in full disclosure, Emily had asked me to do this and I thought, oh sure, I could sit and do a live class. And then last night she texted and said it was gonna be a video recording, and I got a little nervous, and of course my inner critic kicked in. It was like, oh, I don't really think you can do that, and that's gonna be hard, and you're not prepared. And then I channeled some of my mindfulness and I thought, it's okay, you can do that and you'll be fine. And so I think something really important about mindfulness and meditation is that it quiets that voice in your head. And what's really good to know is the voice in your head is not really you talking. That's sort of your mind that tends to be on autopilot. It's the part of you that is just thinking when you're driving, wandering off into thought. And that's not really sort of the essence of who you are. That's just sort of the information that your mind is taking in and providing to you. And unfortunately, our minds scientifically have a tendency to be negative. It's just the way it is. It's scientifically proven. If someone was to say to you, hey, can I talk to you about something after class? The likelihood is you'd spend most of the time thinking you did something wrong or they had something serious, and probably not, right? They just wanted to ask, hey, could you cover a class for me? Could you do this for me? So the reason we practice mindfulness and meditation is to sort of quiet that voice or that chatter or that inner critic. We all have one. We all have different messages that we receive. And sometimes we believe them and sometimes we act on them. Sometimes we act on feelings we're having, things that are coming up in our life. And that's sort of when we're in that autopilot. Our mind is kind of rambling, wandering, we're caught in an emotion and we don't really realize it. And when we can be more focused, mindfulness is really about paying attention and noticing to what's happening in the present moment. And it's hard to do because we are really busy. We're always moving, thinking, doing, playing, talking, working. From the minute we wake up in the morning, I know, I wake up and then my mind's right there ready to tell me like everything that we have to do today. So I often use morning when it's quiet to sit with myself for about 10 minutes and I just sit quietly. I close my eyes, I have a little mindfulness app that rings a bell for me, and I just kind of let everything that sort of went like this to kind of come back down so that I can start my day more intentionally instead of just like out of bed and off and running. And acknowledging that my mind sometimes will wander off and then I kind of follow it wherever it wants to take me. So we tell the kids it's sort of like a puppy dog on a leash. Mindfulness meditation sort of like yank your mind back into the present, because often when our mind is wandering off, it's typically not about what's happening right here. You're thinking about something you have to do later, tomorrow, something that's on your mind, maybe a conversation you had yesterday that you're still feeling uncomfortable about. That's typically what happens. And so mindfulness is that moment where you can come to yourself, sort of quiet everything down, tune out all the stimulation. And a lot of people will say, well, I can't quiet my mind. I can't stop the thinking. So I'm not gonna meditate. I don't really have time. It's not me. I don't wanna do it. All very true. But the beauty of it is you're not supposed to quiet your mind. It would be a nearly impossible task to sort of blank it out. But the idea in meditation is for you to sort of quietly still yourself so that the thoughts can kind of just be there and you're not gravitating towards them. And you use your breath as a way to keep anchoring yourself back, and you let the thoughts kind of wander. And sometimes it's interesting to see if you could separate yourself from those thoughts a little bit. You can see the you and your mind. People say you are not your mind. Don't believe everything your mind's telling you. It's true, because your mind is not really always giving you the most appropriate information. Sometimes it's your worst enemy. And in meditation, you sort of start to see that. You start to see, what's really you and what's really your mind providing you sort of this criticism, this negativity, whatever it might be. So that is really why people come to meditation. And I also like to think that you're building, when you create a daily practice for yourself, whether it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you're comfortable with. I think a lot of people think it has to be in this quiet room, dark, a certain amount of time. I have to quiet my mind. And that is also what deters people from developing a practice. I was told years ago to just see how many minutes of your life you were willing to give back to yourself each day. And that it's really a moment to just sort of tune in, drop in, check in. How are you feeling inside? What's going on in there? And to sort of quiet the chatterbox of your brain a little bit. Not necessarily to stop it, but to be able to just see what it's up to and to separate from it a little bit. And then I feel over time, you start to create this little reservoir of peace inside of you that you can go back to when life hands you something really challenging, or when you're feeling overwhelmed, or when you're running around in a to-do list. Mindfulness gives you that moment to be like, oof, I'm totally caught up in this, or my mind is really wandering. It happens to me a lot when I'm driving. I almost have to like snap myself out of it. And coming back to your breath is always really the best way to sort of recenter yourself. Certainly for Pilates teachers, there's a huge connection between your breath work. You guys talk about it a lot in your classes, to connect to your breath and your body. For our friends who are watching at home, you're probably part of the Pilates community. So there is a really deep connection and reason why you guys are talking about the breath, because certainly when I lay down on the reformer, I definitely have a busy mind. So my mind starts to wander off. And when I get that cue from one of the teachers to come back, to what I'm doing to connect with my breath, I find that my practice gets better. I feel better. You could lay on that reformer and you could do everything you guys are asking us to do and not really be present, because your mind has a powerful place that could really wander you off into a lot of different places. So we practice this as a way to sort of like strengthen up our attention muscle. And it can be challenging. It's hard to sit in stillness. It's not something our bodies naturally like to do. It's why monks, spend their whole life in isolation. Especially now, we have to really, I think, make time for this more than ever, because we are so connected all the time with our phones, we can watch TV all the time. We're always getting texts and emails. People always need something. There's always something you can do. There's something you can research, buy, look up. The world is coming at us at a very fast pace. And so I think it's really important to take time for yourself, which we don't really do a lot of. And so I think meditation is an opportunity to do that, and an invitation to say, hey, I'm gonna shut everything out for 5 minutes and just take a deep breath. And I taught several kids yesterday, and a lot of them kept telling me how they felt rested afterwards. And I think it's kind of like giving yourself a little rest without taking a nap, although you could fall asleep. So with all of that being said, we're gonna do a little meditation together. And you're all in a decently comfortable seated position, but you can kind of just relax your hands, even relax your shoulders. You don't have to be so upright. Get yourself what feels comfortable. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. And just sink a little deeper into your seat. Notice if your hands are tense, what your feet are doing. Just kind of drop in, look around. Notice how your heart feels. Anything going on in your belly. And just slowly start to relax your head, your neck, your shoulders, lower them down. Sink a little further into the ground. And if and when your mind starts to wander, just come back to your breath, breathing in and breathing out. Especially if a thought comes or a reminder, just say thank you. Breathing in and breathing out. Allowing yourself these few moments to just be. Noticing whatever comes up for you. Give yourself some grace and some compassion. your hand and place it on your chest. Place your other hand over that hand. And just breathe in and feel your breath in your chest. Deepening your inhale. Lengthening your exhale. Breathing in and breathing out. Maybe use this moment to set an intention for the rest of your day, or acknowledge a feeling you may have cultivated that feels good, and just hold that for a moment. Take 3 more deep breaths on your own, and open your eyes when you're done. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you.